What's going on, everybody? AQ Devi here, and with the Black Ops 7 Zombies beta now done with, I thought I'd give you guys my own thoughts on how the game plays in its current state, some things to look forward to, and whether or not you yourself should give Black Ops 7 Zombies a try when it fully launches. There are a lot of takeaways from what we've gotten access to so far, so let's not waste any time. If at any point you find yourself enjoying this video, a like, comment, subscribe are always appreciated, but without further ado, let's get into it. To begin, I'd like to preface this entire video with the fact that what we played in this beta is obviously incomplete. While we do have a very strong idea of many of the systems featured here as they were a part of Black Ops 6, this beta has held some things back that will really create a difference right at launch. And of course, the most obvious thing that has been restricted here are the augments. Now, in my last video, I mentioned how the updates to the augment system are one of the things that excite me the most about Black Ops 7 Zombies, as they really added a sort of buildcraft quality to BO6. So of course the additions we will be getting are very welcome. But with the beta not having these tools to play with, it definitely felt a bit harder than last year's counterpart, and while I'm not saying that's a bad thing, I do think it set a different standard to the mode than what we will actually be playing when the game arrives. And I would never be upset at early access to the Zombies mode. Hell, the people in our community have been asking for this very thing for countless years, and I am so excited we actually got a taste of what's to come. My only complaint is if the zombie beta's purpose is to gauge community feedback on things like the gameplay loop and weapon balancing, surely that data would be more accurate if we had access to things like augments like we will at launch. To me, the beta was more of a Van Dorn Farm map showcase rather than a Black Ops 7 Zombies mode showcase, which, while still appreciated, I don't think gives robust feedback in the way that we and Treyarch would conventionally be interested in. Now, this will trickle into a ton of the other aspects I'd like to talk about, so please keep this in the back of your mind over the course of this video, and take everything said with a grain of salt, as much of this is subject to change or is not in its full proper context with so much left outside the beta. Now, there are a few things I'd like to touch on here that have become widely talked about with so many people getting their first hands-on experience with the beta, namely weapon balancing and salvage earn rates. A common complaint I see is that regular bullet weapons fall off much sooner than in Black Ops 6, typically somewhere around the 30s. And while augments will absolutely push this further for perks like Deadshot and Double Tap, it does seem that the base damage values of these weapons has been reduced. Now, as someone who enjoys the modern Zombies formula, I do feel that the difficulty has been heavily lessened in this era. So it's very interesting to see people who have made the same complaints about the mode being too easy are now feeling the burn a bit more and finding themselves underpowered compared to the past few years. Now, this is a totally fair criticism. Yes, I do feel significantly less powerful than I did in BO6, but I'm fine with that, as the goal of gaining a wonder weapon and utilizing traps is now back in full force, just as it was in, say, Black Ops 1 for instance. And if that's just too much to handle, remember there is still a health cap in this game, and augments will significantly improve our DPS during the full launch. Now, the slowing of salvage earn rates is interesting to see. On one hand, it does take a bit more time than before to fully max out your weapon's rarity, which combined with doing less damage overall does add to that underpowered feeling we've seen while playing this beta. But with so many new ways to earn salvage, I personally find this negligible, if not better than before. It wasn't unheard of to have a weapon at its max damage potential below round 20 in Black Ops 6. Whereas today, even when utilizing a system like the Chompy Garbage Bin, it can take 5 to 10 rounds longer at minimum to actually get yourself there. The reason I find this change as a positive is that one of my favorite parts of playing zombies is the setup process. I like to race against the power curve of the zombies as the rounds progress to try to stay on top, and if I'm not efficient at doing so, the challenge ramps up in its own fun way. Now, with Black Ops 7, there are ways to bypass this, such as now being able to find Aether tools in the mystery box, but even without this, I think the fine line between being underpowered and being overpowered at any point during a game of zombies is right where it needs to be here. Of course, we can't talk about the beta without mentioning the two special enemy types, the Ravagers and the Zersa. As I predicted in my previous video, the Ravagers are in fact bastards and are actually even more so than I originally thought. While the mechanic of eating your salvage and loot off the ground is something to keep an eye on, as feeding the loot to Chompy can boost your salvage quite a bit, these guys are extremely quick and should especially not be ignored on their dedicated rounds. The sheer speed and amount of these things will annihilate you if you aren't constantly moving and keeping an eye on where they're spawning from. But if you or your team are well equipped with monkey bombs or Gersh devices, thanks to Max Ammo's now refilling tacticals and lethals, these are easily the strongest and safest options to get through the rounds and get to that sweet classic round end music. Likewise, the Zursa is a powerhouse in its own right. A combination of the bees that swarm you, the hives that leave a large area of constant lingering damage, its rush to quickly gain speed on you, and its insane melee that deals massive damage over time and slows you, this beast lives up to its elite title. I've said in the past that my favorite enemies are the ones you aren't allowed to ignore, and the Zursa is one of, if not the best example of this. While it may be the cramped space of only seeing how it plays on Van Dorn Farm, the only relief I see us getting on Ashes of the Damned is hopefully being able to get away fast enough with the Wonder Vehicle. The Zursa is such an impressive and punishing enemy type to get at launch that I can only hope the DLC season will follow suit and continue to bring us difficult monsters that will keep us on our toes throughout the game's life cycle. Wait, did I say 2 special enemy types? Well, my mistake is how could I possibly forget that once you reach round 40, none other than the Doppelgast makes its return. Although I'm using the word return extremely loosely, as the Doppelgast has been featured in every single zombies map since Citadel des Morts. This thing has been with us since December 5th, 2024. Almost a full year of ear-ringing shrieks and psychoactive needles later, I actually rated this thing as my least favorite special enemy in all of Black Ops 6, behind things like the Parasites and the Manglers. Now, I do not hate the Doppelgast. My biggest complaint about it was that it just didn't feel like it fit on any of the maps it featured on besides Citadel. With that said, the 2 reasons I'm upset about its inclusion here are: 1, such a large portion of upset with Black Ops 6 was its lack of enemy variety, so continuing to bring it along into a new game release feels sort of cheap. And 2, I know people feel much more strongly and negatively about this decision, and I hate to see the community's initial impressions of this mode be tainted by such an easy fix. Now, by no means am I saying that creating a brand new special enemy from scratch is easy. What I am saying is just ditching the Doppelgast to emphasize the 2 new beautifully designed enemies is the right move if there's no new enemy to implement at this point in time. Now, for camo challenges, we know some of them will require special enemy kills, so I would hope we get some sort of replacement by the time the game releases, but this may be an unrealistic request, so I propose 2 solutions. 1, Treyarch could change the camo challenges to include Ravagers and just bump the required kills up, as the Ravagers are obviously easier to kill and are much more plentiful. Then when a brand new special enemy arrives in this mode, revert the challenge back and keep the percentage progress. Or 2, and this is the bare minimum and what I expect to be the case, Treyarch, just don't do it again. With a sour taste left in everyone's mouths over this decision, especially after last year, I think we can all agree that making this the one and only returning enemy type in Black Ops 7 period would be a step in the right direction. I'm not mad about the Doppelgast returning personally, just disappointed. There are only a couple more things I'd like to touch on here. The saw blade trap feels incredible, especially now granting points, and a massive kudos to the sound department once again, as the song that plays while this trap is active is what nightmares are made of, and it fits right at home with some of the more horror-themed marketing we've gotten for this game. I only hope that can continue and be expanded upon with the full Ashes of the Damned map. The high rounds now feel much more manageable, with armored zombies now being unable to super sprint, and super sprinters in general being massively nerfed both in quantity and by pushing back the rounds they start spawning on. Huge W here. Fireworks is a pretty solid ammo mod, and while I tend to run whatever the elites on a map are weak to, I'm hoping the augments to it can push it past that point for me so I can fully enjoy using it while not feeling disadvantaged for not playing into the map's meta. Toxic Growth was personally really disappointing to me, but some of the augments I know are going to push this thing much further for me, particularly the Plant Food Miner augment, which has a chance to drop healing fruit upon kills, and the major augment Zuckery, which will transform the first non-elite into the Toxic Growth itself. At base, this thing was underwhelming, but I think augments like these will breathe new life into this otherwise mid-field upgrade. All in all though, there's not much else to talk about with this limited version of the game we've had the opportunity to play. There's still a lot we've not had access to, and I'm personally still extremely optimistic that this game will live up to my own quite high expectations. But what about you guys? Do you think the beta gave you a taste of something greater to come, or is it a minor facelift to Black Ops 6 that's not worth the hype? Leave me your thoughts down below. Go follow me on Twitter at AQDevi for plenty of fun zombies discussions and shower thoughts. Of course, if at any point you found yourself enjoying this video, a like, comment, and subscribe are always appreciated. You can expect plenty more content on it coming up leading into the game's release, so don't miss out. But until then, I've been AQDevi, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.